In my previous videos, I focused on making lenses for the front camera, lenses that would work on one's face. In this video, I'm going to talk about making world lenses. These are lenses that you typically use with your rear camera to explore the world around you. And you can use Lens Studio to add elements to what the camera sees. In this way, you're creating an augmented reality experience. Typically, this involves tracking the movement of the camera, maybe tracking surfaces that the camera sees. So it could be floor planes or other horizontal or vertical surfaces. I'll get into setting up a world lens in Lens Studio, but first I want to start from the very beginning and make a 3D object in Blender so I can bring it into my scene. What I'll do is get a logo of PSU graphic design, the Portland State graphic design, and just extrude that in Blender. So what I'm going to do is import, I have it saved out already as an SVG, so a vector file format. I should have it right here. I'll import that in. Remember when you open up Blender, you get this cube in the middle. You can select it and hit X to just delete that, and then you should see, here's my SVG. It came in really small. You can see it's here. One thing I want to do is, right now they're all separate curves. Since I want them to edit, since I want to edit them all together, I'm just going to go right click and go to join or Command J, and that way when I hit S to scale it, I can scale the whole thing and not worry about scaling different parts separately. Let's see. Okay, so you can see the size right here. Let me just rotate a little bit, and then I'm going to select this, and then go down into in the curve itself. There should be this tab for geometry, and then here's where I can extrude it. Now, I probably want to do something really small, like that 0.1 is actually way too big. If I do 0.01, you can see that's also too big. Maybe something like this to start off with. And if I want to have a bevel on it, I can add that here. Now again, we're going to need to make this really, really small. So maybe 0.0001. And yeah, now there's a little bit of a bevel around here, so it's not just a straight edge. Okay, so that's looking all right. And if I want to change the material, I can go here, and right now it's a base color of black, but I could change this out. Maybe make it kind of blue-gray, and I can change the metallic quality, maybe make it a little bit more reflective. Oops. One thing you're seeing right now is there is no light in this, so it's actually a little bit deceiving what it's going to look like. Again, you can preview the different versions here. If you're seeing just the mesh, just switch their mode. Okay, so I could export this out and just bring this in as a 3D object, but maybe I'll just do a little animation to this. So I'm going to maybe only make it 90 frames. So I'm going to hit set the range to 90. Again, I can clamp this down. You can see there's a light bar here that goes up to 90. So that's my animation. And when I'm rotating this, one thing that is nice to know is, like, right now there's this anchor point in here. So if I hit R to rotate, you can see everything's rotating around that one point, which I might want that to maybe like be in the center or be somewhere else. So I could right click on this and go to set origin, and maybe I'll do origin to center of mass. And now when I hit R, you can see that it's this little dot here. This is something else. This is the, that's the 3D cursor, but this point, this orange point, is now the rotation point. So maybe I'll go into this and just change some of the settings. Here we go. Sorry. So I'll maybe rotate this 90, and oops. I think I want to rotate this one 90. There we go. So something like this. Oops. Maybe I just want this to rotate. I'm going to try to put it in the center because that's going to kind of affect how it's where it's positioned in space in Lens Studio. So if I want to bring it somewhat close, I could do it like that. Again, I can use this to help position it. Maybe put it right in the center. Okay, so from here, I'm going to keyframe this. The rotation I need, I believe, is, yeah, probably along the Z-axis. So I'll hit this button to keyframe, and we'll go up to, I know I have a range up to 90, but I'm going to end a little bit earlier. I'll go to 360, so that's one full revolution, 360 degrees. And then if I play this, you can see it has natural kind of easing on it, but it kind of pauses at the end. So that's kind of what I'm going for. And yeah, this is basically all I need. I'm going to just go up to export as GLTF. And I'm going to call this PSU GD logo spin, export it like this. Make sure it has the animation embedded in it. And then we can hop over into Lens Studio. So I'm in Lens Studio and I just opened up a new file. Don't really have anything in here except camera and lighting. I'm gonna import my 3D object in. So I'll go to right click, import asset. It's this logo spin. Let's bring that in here. Now this is just in the asset browser right here. The next thing I wanna do is, well, if I wanted to just bring it into the scene, I could bring it in like this, and you'll see it's here. And right now, when I want to work with an environment or like using the rear camera, I want to use probably one of these world scenarios. So something like this. You can see this isn't really moving with the camera. It's not really moving in the space, but this, I want to use something like this to kind of see how my object is working. And then I would really recommend sending this to your phone and testing it in real space. But you can see it's not really positioned in space. It's not really positioned relative to any of the surfaces or the geometry in the scene. So what I want to do is go in, and I can bring in something that will help me situate this in space. If you go up to the asset library, and we'll search for world object controller. So this will help me put this into place, and it'll also give me some controls. You can see it brought it into the asset browser, but it also brought it into the scene itself. So when we open this up, you can see some of the assets. There's the sphere is here as sort of a placeholder. We're gonna swap it out. You can see it's actually not really. Oh, there it's kind of there. It's in the space, and yeah, there's this ground grid. There's touch collision. This is like a interface. Like it lets you move things around, and you can set the sort of like clickable area with this box. And there's also this shadow. But what we want to do is go into the world object controller, and we need to connect this. You can see there's some options here. We have this already kind of connected, but we don't have the device tracking set up. So we want to go into a camera object, and you can see I think we brought that in. Once we brought that in, it added a device tracking piece here. You could also get to this if you don't see it. Look up device tracking, and it lets us pick. Right now, it's set to surface, but you could also set it to world if you wanted to kind of recognize some of the mesh around the space. Now that works best with a phone in a real space. So go back to your world object controller, and where it says device tracking, pull your camera object in there. And so now it's going to start to recognize that. Let me turn this off. Whoops. Maybe I'll turn off this right now, and we'll just kind of look at the sphere. So the sphere right now, I don't know if you saw the very edge of it. This is way too big. So we're going to want to scale this down. And then maybe, whoops. Push it down here. Kind of think about where this is in space. Now we're moving around a lot. Let me actually just go back to like the brick. So you can, or maybe something with a little bit more movement. you can see this is situated in space. And so as I move, it kind of acts like it's actually in the space. And then this is what the touch collision does. It lets me kind of move it around in the space. Now, the device tracking is set to surface. So it's going to try to find the horizontal surface. I think it's usually horizontal because this is horizontal, but it could be a floor, or if you're looking at a table in your camera, it could be that, and it will try to position the object on there, and then this lets you move it around. So if we don't want the sphere, we can go ahead and let's delete that, and let's bring the logo inside of this and then turn it on. And you can see we can reposition this, so we can, if you want this to look like it's on the surface, you want to bring it down so it's low. But you could also select and make sure you select the right one, and then you could bring it up. You could scale this if you wanted to as well. Okay, and then this is the touch collision area. Now, again, you can scale this too if you want to set the region to really fit this. You can think of this as the clickable area of a button, and you can move it around too. All right, so let's preview this lens. I'm going to send this to my phone and then open it up in Snapchat and just make sure it's working as I intended. So you can see in the lens, the ground grid does appear. And I don't know if this is a bug. I've tried turning this off here and also turning this off. But I think the way, if you really don't want that to show, probably the best thing to do is delete it. Although it will kind of create this error where it you no longer have this ground grid. But when I preview the lens that way, that seemed to fix that, if that is a big issue for you. Now, we could always add more items into this. So if we went to the asset library, for example, we can go into 3D. You could also put 2D items into here and just put them in 3D space, but we could bring this red panda in, for example. They are going to come in to here. We'll drag this in. We can put it, if we put it underneath this world object controller, it's going to be part of the same group, but we can move it around. Now, the thing to keep in mind is how these objects interact in 3D space. You don't want them to go through each other and do things that aren't plausible in real life. Now, be careful of like these objects kind of interacting like that. Maybe it's better if I put this off to the side a little bit in the back and scale it up. Whoops. Try to get them on the same surface. But the thing to keep in mind is that because these are under one object controller, when we move them around, reposition them in space, it's going to be moving the whole thing around. I think one way to get around it is to make another one of these. So in this case, we have the sphere. Let's delete that, and let's put the red panda there. And now, here we go. Let me send this to my phone and just test this out. Be aware that I did leave the ground grid in here, so we'll probably see that in this item when we preview it. Now, one reason these were kind of grouped together is that initially I had, I'll just undo a few steps. The touch collision was overlapping. It was actually like right overlapping like that. So we definitely want to make sure that we are moving them so they're separate. And in the screen recording, you did see that once, if I reposition them and they start to overlap, that does kind of create some issues. But doing it this way will let you have these individually controllable items in space, but that may or may not be necessary. And I'm not exactly sure how much strain having multiple controllers puts on it, but so you might just want to be mindful of that as you get going. As I wrap up this video, one thing I want to do is try to recreate a similar effect to what I saw in Snapchat's World Lens video. So I've opened up a scene here. I've already kind of done the steps I've showed earlier. I have a world object controller. I brought in my animation. I have the sphere here, which I'm going to delete. So you can see this is my 3D asset. Maybe I'll go into here. I'll hit R to scale it up and kind of get it to fit in here. If I want to change the touch collision, I can scale that down. And then the next thing I want is these kind of particles to be coming out of this. So I can do that by hitting the plus button up here, and I can search for particles. What I'll use is just the GPU particles. Now this, you'll see it's in here, it's really tiny, so let me scale it up first. You can see right now it's shooting these particles. Okay. And I think it's important to kind of figure out what's happening here. Let me also bring this underneath the world object controller so that it sticks with this. So if I hit the GPU particles, you can see there's different properties inside the inspector. The mesh that is using is this GPU particles mesh, and we can find it here. But actually a lot of the details for this you can kind of find if you look at the different assets in here. So we'll go to the material GPU particles, and that's going to show kind of what's happening here. Right now, there's a shader attached to this, that's GPU particles here. But the one that's going to give us the most information is this material right here. So you can go in here, and right now it's using a quad, which is kind of just like a square. You could do a 3D mesh type of thing. We're going to leave it on quad since we're going to put an image onto it. You can do things like change this global time multiplier. If you want to go slower, you could hit it with 0.5 instead of 1. A few other things you can do are change the number of particles coming out. So if this is too much for you, maybe you could do it to 50. As far as the emitter area itself, if you want to adjust that, you can scale, again, hit R, and then you could scale this to kind of go out a little bit wider. Yeah, this is a way to kind of change that area. But let's go back into the GPU particles material. And here there's a lot of options. I won't go into all of them. Probably the biggest one to get us going is, like, right now it's using this GPU particles texture, which is just, if we click on that, just this default kind of texture. If we want our own particle in here, we can bring that in as a texture. I'm going to go into this asset browser and import the asset. I have a particle that I designed already. It's basically just kind of like this star shape with a little bit of blur on it. And it's a PNG, so it has a transparent background on it. That's what it looks like. So let's go back into the materials, and where it says texture, we're going to drag our own texture into it. And now you can see that's shooting out our own custom particle. There are other, again, I said you can change other settings here. Like if you want this has the velocity min and max. If you want this to go slower, you could change that. The other, I think you can change the size too, so that the size is more random. You could really change that. That's probably too much, but I just wanted you to get an idea of what that looks like. The other thing we could do is change the amount of gravity here. So negative 9.8 is the standard gravity, but if you did -5, for example, it would kind of float a little bit more. You could also do something similar by changing the force here, and you can also change the velocity drag. So there are a lot of options here. I'm not going to dive into all of them, but something worth exploring. The other thing you might want to do is move the position of the particles. Right now it's really at the top edge, but maybe we want to move that. I'll hit W to get the movement tool and do something like this. All right, so I'm gonna send this to my lens, but I also want to show this other thing. In your project settings, I've showed this before, but one thing you can do is if you go into your mobile settings right here, you can change kind of which lens or which camera it works. So the front camera is good for face filters and things like that. We're using the rear camera, the back camera. Now, it's probably best to leave these both on, even if you're meant to use a rear camera like this. We can set this to rear camera so it automatically engages. And the reason for that is that when people are browsing your filters or when you're browsing your preview, if you have this checked off, you're not going to see it automatically. You have to make sure that you're on the right camera. So I've done this before where I checked this off and then I couldn't find my lens because I couldn't access it until I hit the rear camera. And you could also put a hint here. This is something that you've seen in maybe some other lenses. They'll tell you, it might say look down, look left to kind of activate it. You might want to say something like either swap camera or if you're trying to find a surface, you could use tap a surface or tap the ground. If you're creating a world lens that uses that. But these are hints that you can access. So I might do something like try it with your rear camera so that people know that they shouldn't use their front camera. And so when I preview the lens, I should be getting that hint to my phone. There's obviously a lot more you could do with this, but hopefully this gives you an overview on some of the capabilities and techniques that you can use for world lenses.